Hey, welcome to the Huntsville Hustle podcast. I'm your host, Joe Martin, and today we got Dawn Pumpelly. She's editor and owner of the Scout Guide Huntsville, and she's been a champion for local businesses, and she's creating that platform that truly connects and uplifts these small businesses that we know and love so much in our area. And I'm excited to dive into her journey, kind of the impact of the Scout Guide, and what's next for her in the local scene. So, Dawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is a lot of fun. I love podcasts.
This is going to be a good one. I can already tell. So
Okay.
tune in. Don't turn off yet. Keep doing your laundry or whatever you're doing while you're listening to the show. So let's start here. What inspired you to bring the Scout Guide to Huntsville?
Well, it was 8 or 9 years ago now, and I was looking to transition out of a family business, looking for my next steps. And I sort of, this is halfway through your time in your career too, Joe, I think. I started looking around and seeing Huntsville was the way I hoped it would be. I started seeing the changes that were happening, and I was really excited about that. And I wanted to find a way to be a part of it. I wanted to be a positive part of what I thought was going to be the future, a very bright future for Huntsville. And so I just started searching around, researching, thinking about different ways that I could start a business for myself. And that's how I found Scout Guide. And I've loved every day of it since then, except maybe a couple of days in 2020.
That doesn't even count. I mean, everybody's like, let's just forget about that whole year. Let's get out of there.
Yeah. So there were a few days that I thought we were done, but other than that, it's been pretty magical.
Awesome. Yeah. If you can survive that, you can survive just about anything, I would think. So
especially in small business, right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we do in-person fitness class. I was like, oh no, now what? I think everyone kind of was stunned for a while, but you figure things out. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So maybe a lot of people don't know this. You have a political science background. So how has that played in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Well, I'm a recovering political scientist, actually. So I thought that's what I wanted to do with my life. I went to Sewanee, University of the South, which is not too far from Huntsville, and got a liberal arts degree. And with that, it was a political science degree. And I went to Washington, D.C., and I spent 6 months there. And I was so disappointed that all of the theory that I studied wasn't really how it was practiced on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, right now, political climate's changing, but I think that aspect of it, the reality of it versus what I learned in the classroom has been something that's been happening for a long, long time. And it wasn't the right fit for me. And that's okay, because the one thing that I really am proud of and happy about is that I do have that liberal arts degree. And so I felt like I knew how to communicate. I knew how to connect with people. I like to say I'm an inch deep and a mile wide, thanks to liberal arts. I can quote Shakespeare. I can tell you about political theory. I can speak a little bit of another language. And I think that just sort of helps on the day-to-day. I did not, from there, I really sort of entered sales and marketing and became self-taught in a lot of different ways. But, it gave me a nice broad basis for, what I do today.
Man, I bet you dominate a cocktail party. Anything at a cocktail, that's valuable. I mean, with what you do, that is actually super valuable. So that is kind of, I can see how that would work. Like me, I could talk about like pro wrestling and football. And then I'm like, oh no, now what do we do?
I don't think that's true, Joe. I think you have a pretty varied, I have a feeling you're about 4 inches deep and a mile wide. I bet you've got a lot to offer at a cocktail party.
Every now and then. I mean, foolishness is always welcome with most people. And I got that in spades. So I can bring that to the table for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But, I could talk to you about football, but I can't really talk to you about pro wrestling. So
well, that's another one to brush up on. There you go.
Okay.
Just another
I'll
one.
work on it.
Always learning. Always learning. So let's talk about this. You talked about how COVID was a challenge, but in the beginning, what were some challenges in the beginning that you kind of went through?
Well, Scout Guide is it's actually a franchise model. So I bought the franchise from a larger organization, the scoutguide.com, the Scout Guide headquarters. And when I started, Scout Guide was, I think, in about 55 cities. It was still fairly new. It's 15 years old this year, so it was about half its age at that point. And just the awareness of what Scout Guide was as a brand was just not really, it just wasn't something that was on the radar screen for many people in Huntsville. So I spent a lot of time just sort of establishing what the brand was and trying to paint the picture for what I was trying to bring to the community. And luckily, Huntsville's the kind of place that people, if you have a good idea and you're willing to work for it, people will listen to you. And honestly, at that time, all I really kind of had to say is, this is the Scout Guide. Atlanta has one, Birmingham has one, and Nashville has one. And that at that time, that was really meaningful to people in Huntsville. If those cities had something similar, then it helped me sort of at least get my foot in the door and start talking about it.
Yeah, that's it. If it hadn't been done before, it's kind of hard to explain to someone who's never seen it. So
Yeah.
I can imagine that'd be a huge challenge. But also, that is kind of a good selling point that, hey, if we're going to be like these cities, which it seems like we're kind of Huntsville's goals, be them and better than them, we need a Scout Guide. So now we go.
Exactly. Well, and I remember, I met with a couple of people even before I bought the franchise. I met with a couple of people that I've like Dennis Madston, who works in the city planning office. I met with Sasha Seeley. She and her husband developed Bell Hudson Lofts in the Avenue downtown. My friend Leslie Eklund, who's the CEO at Burritt, or was the CEO of Burritt at the time. And I shared it with them. And I remember Sasha Seeley said to me, "You have to do this. You have to do this. Huntsville needs this. Huntsville deserves this. It's this kind of place." And that was really helpful to just kind of have people that had vision about where our city was going, which is what I was trying to do, sort of confirm for me that I was pointed in the right direction.
Man, good for her. I love people like that. They just kind of give you that backbone, a little bit extra backbone that you think you're heading the right way, and someone to confirm that is so huge. So
yeah, well, in the Seeleys, when they developed the Bell Hudson Lofts, was that 10, 12 years ago now? I mean, they really put their money where their mouth was. There wasn't much going on downtown. So that was, I really respected that they were in it on the day to day, and I think had a really great vision.
So, I mean, in the beginning, you were kind of a one woman army, like a lot of us are.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might as well be a woman at this point, but I was a one man show as well. But since you've built a dedicated team. So first, how did you find your team members over the years?
I'm so lucky. I have the most extraordinary group of, I would just say women, but actually one man and women who work with me. And I think a lot of it is we just share that same sentiment. We love Huntsville. We love the small business community. We want Huntsville to be a better place. And so in almost all the cases, the team that I work with, I met through someone else. And I think a lot of times that really helps, just to have that connection, like, just put it out there. This is what I'm looking for, and have somebody say, "Hey, I know my friend Sabrina is looking for something like that." So that's really how I started out. Honestly, I think we really have kind of become a family, Joe. I mean, we work really hard together. We have a lot of fun together. And it's something that we're sort of all moving in the same direction under the same mission, just sort of like you are. Like, we just want to highlight the best of local businesses. We want to do the best to try to help local businesses and the local community. And so I think that kind of mission and motivation to do good, even in business, it's pretty empowering.
And isn't it awesome when business is actually fun? Isn't that nice? That's actually nice.
Right? It really is. I said to somebody the other day, I think I need to figure out, my husband has a lot of interests that I feel like if something happened and we retired, he'd be busy all day long. My interests are all this. So I said, I either need to get a hobby or just do this forever.
There you go. You can go either way. But when looking back at you, look at yourself kind of the beginning and where you are now, how have you grown kind of as a team leader with that team?
Well, I think, and not even looking back to the beginning of Scout Guide, but just sort of looking back to earlier in my career, I think the key thing is knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're not good at, and understanding what you're not good at, and then finding the right people who can fill those roles. I always say I'm not the boss, but I'm not bossy, but I'm the boss. But I'm also really, really aware that if I'm not good at something, I want to delegate it. And that's everything to planning a party or social media or photography, or even if I'm doing a project around my house, or, I love to bring in somebody who's the expert at what they do, because one, I learn in that process, but two, why not empower someone else to take care of what's not your innate strengths? And I think that helps build a team too, is just letting people own what they're good at and helping them grow into it, giving them more and more responsibility.
And that is simple and very good on paper, but sometimes when it's your baby, it can be tough to turn this. So good on you that you figured out, hey, I can get the right people in the right spots and I can kind of step out of this. Even though it's my baby, I'm still going to let these people do. And that sounds easy on paper, but man, that can be a
Well,
tough.
and I'm really glad that they're not here. Like, oh, here they are calling in to tell you that, to tell you the honest truth. I think that's true. I think that they would tell you that too, that I am willing to delegate, not even delegate, but defer to their expertise when it's not my area.
That's awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about some future goals. I know
Okay.
you're goal oriented. So what are you looking at for the Scout Guide in the future?
Well, I that's really interesting. So I don't know if you know this, but my husband and I acquired the Scout Guide Greenville from Greenville, South Carolina about a year and a half ago. And that was not really intentional growth. It was sort of was something that just seemed like it made sense at the time. And so we did it. And the first year was, I think, pretty harder than I thought it was going to be, but it's definitely, we have an incredible team lead over there who is just super super talented, and so she owns most of that. So I think, from a growth perspective, I just want to continue to operate at what I think is the level of excellence, and I really want to continue to establish the brand as the go-to place for where people, as a trusted resource to find the best of local businesses. And so rather than growing, for a long time we grew, like how big is the book? How many people are in it? I think we're really sort of at a place where we're at a good equilibrium there. And so, Joe, I think it's really more about sort of adding extra value to the guide and the way the guide can help the community. Does this make sense? Am I
But yeah,
getting too in depth?
if you already got a good thing, why not just make it better? Just keep, there's always little things you can do to make it better.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to necessarily be bigger. It's a good size now. If you guys haven't seen the Scout Guide, it's pretty good size.
It's
right?
it's a pretty hefty representation of the most distinctive local businesses in Huntsville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not trying to get the yellow pages out here. We're just trying to make it better with what we got right
Yeah.
here. So
But
I
like last year we partnered with Church Street Wine Shop, Stephanie and Matt Mell, and Marianne Wyndham of Wyndham Travel, and we added a scouted travel experience. We took about 30 people from Huntsville on a river cruise in Portugal. That was sort of, another way to sort of bring the Scout Guide into things. We added, and I do a scouted series on Tennessee Valley Living every 2 weeks. We added that a couple of years ago. So just really, I think what I'm looking forward to in the next year is maybe also bringing some curated events to sort of where people want to connect with sort of distinctive experiences. I think we might bring a couple of events. So that's maybe where we're seeing the growth in the next 12 months or so. And maybe even some merch.
think it's time.
Time for merch?
Yeah, I
I
think
think you
so.
look really cute with a medallion. I'll make sure you got one.
I mean, I would rock a medallion so hard.
Oh, yeah, you
I'd be
would.
the best medallion wearer in town. But Marianne Wyndham is awesome. If you guys don't know Marianne Wyndham, you need to change that.
No kidding.
She is
Now
awesome.
I think probably you've got the redhead connection with her. So there's that, but she's pretty awesome. I mean, an incredible travel planner.
A lot of people don't know, like, gingers all have a secret meeting every Thursday that we all meet up at. So we all know each other. So she's at those meetings.
I couldn't get her on the phone yesterday. She was at her ginger meetup.
There you go. That's it. That's why you can't talk to her. You had a great quote about Huntsville at one time about said Huntsville is a place where if you have a good idea and you work hard,
Yeah.
people will support you, which I think is so true. Do you have an example of that? How people have kind of rallied around the Scout Guide over the years?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, let me say that I am not the first person who said that. I mentioned him a little while ago. Dennis Madsen told me that. Do you know Dennis?
I know of him, and I've met him in passing.
He's an awesome guy, and he's done a lot for our community. I really appreciate him. But Scout Guide Huntsville, here we are. We're this, pretty small town. And, I already mentioned Scout Guide is in Houston and Dallas and Atlanta and Charlotte and all these big cities. And I think just in general, the way our community is rallied around me and our team and Scout Guide Huntsville is just accepting us and embracing us. So, I mean, I'm going to say something that sounds a little braggy, but this is it. I mean, we just got back from the Scout Guide Editors Conference. Scout Guide Huntsville was named top 5 across the 100 Scout Guide cities. We have the number one engagement in our Instagram account compared to any other Scout Guide city across the 100 cities. Houston, Dallas, Charlotte, where our website has like, I don't know, it's like top 7 out of 10, like 7 out of the top 10 traffic on our local website. And I think really that's extraordinary to me, that in our small town, people love Huntsville and they love our local businesses and they're showing up for us and they're rallying around. I think Huntsville as a community, it's a pretty passionate place. I mean, we're really pretty extraordinary in terms of the way that we rally around each other. And I think Huntsville has really shown up for Scout Guide Huntsville. And I just appreciate it so much.
Those are amazing numbers right there. And that's not bragging. That's just reporting the news. I mean, that's just
right.
straight
I'm
fact.
surprised you didn't see that with Lester Holt last night.
Yeah. I mean, you're not bragging, you're just telling me the news right there. So, I mean, over the years, what's been the most surprising lesson you've learned as a business owner?
I think that hard work doesn't feel like work if it's yours, if you're passionate about it. I mean, when I started this, my son was in 6th grade, something like that. I mean, I started it so that I could pick him up from school, but then I ended up, and I know you do this, on my couch on Instagram at 9 o'clock at night, or on the weekends, or, on vacation. But I don't begrudge any of that because it's so fun for me as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur. That's been the biggest surprise.
Yep. I've heard a definition of an entrepreneur as someone who quits a 40-hour-a-week job so he can work 100 hours for themselves.
I think you're right. But I will say, now that I've been around it longer, in addition to finding people that sort of have strengths that fit maybe my weaknesses, I also have sort of come to appreciate that sometimes it's worth investing in having a few more people on your team so that you're not doing all the things, and being able to sort of craft a life where work and life are complementary.
Yeah, you want some kind of life. I mean, I don't have much of one, but most people probably would like a little bit of a life. I'm not one of them, but some people do. If I can just take a nap during the day, then I can take on the world.
Oh my God, I could not nap. Do you nap, Joe?
I'm a professional. I don't have many marketable skills, but be able to sleep at any time, anywhere, I can do that.
That is a huge talent. My husband is that way. I wish I could do that. No, I'm not a sleeper, but I am a traveler. That little boy I was talking about, he's in college now. So, we do like to travel. And so that's my getaway. No naps,
Awesome.
though.
Where's he going to school?
He is a painter, so he's going to art school at Rhode Island School of Design. It's called RISD.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, you get to travel up in New York. My son is at West Point right now. He's in the Air Force Academy. They're playing basketball against Army today, so it's a big game today.
Congratulations. What time's the game? Surely we're not conflicting.
No, we're not conflicting. We got plenty of time.
Okay, I keep seeing you look to the side. I thought maybe you were watching the game at the same time. I'm just
joking. That's where my questions are. A little inside information. That's where the questions are located.
That's funny.
So I know you're very connected. You've met a lot of people, but is there anyone in Huntsville that you would like to connect with that you haven't been able to?
You know what? Okay, truth be told, if you're listening to this podcast, Joe does give you some questions in advance. And I really thought a lot about this one. I do feel very lucky that I have had the opportunity to meet a lot of people in this role. And I think the one thing that I have also come to appreciate about Huntsville is I think people are very accessible. So if there's somebody that you want to meet and you haven't, you just kind of have to reach out. I mean, I could not think of just one person how about you? Is there somebody you'd like to meet, Joe?
My one person I really wanted to meet just in the world in general was Richard Simmons. That was my guy. I wanted to meet him. So man, him passed away really hurt. But no, you're right. You're like Huntsville we're like one person away just about from anybody in Huntsville. That's the beauty of it. So that's why you don't want to burn bridges, folks. If you're listening right now, don't burn. You're probably going to run into that person again. So
right.
Yeah, building those relationships and meeting those people, you can pretty much do that anywhere. But all right, let me rephrase this. Who is someone you want to do a feature on that you haven't been able to do a feature on yet?
I think I'd love to have maybe more folks in the food and beverage community, because I think we're really moving in the direction of being more of a foodie town. So, one place that I really like in town that I have not been able to connect with anyone is Back 40 Brewery. And I think that's a really neat place with a cool vibe. I mean, they're from Gadsden, I think, originally, but had a huge hand in sort of changing the way beer brewing happens in Alabama. So I think they'd be a really neat organization. Who do you think I
Absolutely.
should include in the Scout
I think
Guide?
it'd be great. That's a great facility. I don't know the owners or whoever's behind it, but that's a great facility, great food and beverages over there. And it's huge. If you haven't been over there, man, there could be so many people there and you still plenty of tables, plenty of
Yeah,
room to get in there. So it's a great place.
it's a party place, that's for sure.
Sure. I mean, there's kids, there's families out there. Everybody's having a good time. And when the weather's good, that's a really good spot.
I agree.
I'll have to think about though. I will give you some of my thoughts later.
Okay,
I'll have
all
to,
right.
have to think about that. So,
Okay, good.
how about some advice you've received over there? It could be personal, it could be business. What's some of the best advice you've ever been given?
Well, I kind of operate by sort of the personal. My personal belief is karma is a boomerang. You just put good stuff out there, and it will come back to you. And so that's just really how I operate. Just trying to be very authentic, very um, I used to work with my family. We owned senior living communities, and there was a lot of deal making. We're going to change your rent for this, or we're going to give you this benefit in that industry. Yeah, and I think apartments are probably like that too. But my family sort of said, like, we have our rates. This is what it costs to care for someone. We're going to be genuine. Everybody's going to pay the same thing. That's the fair way to go about business. And I really took that to heart. I really feel very strongly that, that everybody pays what the rate card says, and there's not deal making, and you're not giving away things, and that being just very fair, I think that pays dividends. So that was very good advice for me, and that just really translates into almost every part of what I do. Just take it or leave it. This is what I do. This is the value that you get for it. I think you get a lot of value, and hopefully that's a good way for us to do business.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think just putting it out there and there. Here's what I got. I know what it's worth, and
Yeah.
here's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
I think just putting things in black and white is so important in business for a lot of people because no one wants gray, right? When it's kind of wishy washy too,
Yeah.
nobody likes that.
Or you don't want to feel like you didn't get the value out of what you paid for. Yeah.
I know this next one's probably gonna be a tough one, so I want to kind of narrow it down because over the years you've worked with so many people. So just the first person that pops in your head when you think about, I want to thank this person for helping me become successful.
Yeah. Well, that is easy. That's my husband, David. I mean, he's my number one. I mean, and there are many others too, just like him, but he's the first one that popped into my head. I mean, he's my number one supporter. He's my cheerleader. He is my caregiver. I mean, he's really got just been such a supportive best friend. And what's exciting too, Joe, is now he has joined me full time. So we work together. So, because I used to come home and he'd be like in the drudgery of selling software to people around the world. And, he'd be sitting there at the laptop and I'd be like, guess what I got to do today? Or guess who I met today? Or, and I felt badly about that because here I am having fun all the time. And he was doing that. He enjoyed it. And it was a great thing for our family at the time. But when it became time that he could stop doing that and come and work with the Scout Guide, that's been a wonderful thing for us. One, it helped us to add Greenville and not have me totally lose my mind. And he does all the billing, the financial stuff, any kind of software stuff that we need. And it's just really nice to have my number one fan and supporter now be my number one coworker.
How about that? Here, we're recording this on Valentine's Day too. Man, that was a perfect answer on Valentine's
I
Day.
didn't know if I should reference Valentine's Day, but I was going to say I actually wrote some of that in the card that I gave him today.
Yeah. Yeah. The number one supporter. That's the way it should be. That should be your number one supporter. I love it.
Well, and I bet you and your wife are like this too. My husband and I have a really good time together. I mean, we just have fun. And I think for me, that's an important basis of our relationship is just having a good time, supporting each other, having fun.
Yeah. Life's supposed to be fun. right? It's supposed to be funny. We laugh every day. I mean, I laugh more at my jokes than she does, but still, she laughs at some of them at this point. She's heard the same ones over and over, but still, I still make her laugh.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
My husband's the jokester too. He's very punny. Dad jokes.
He's like me. The wife is the really good looking one, the one with common sense, all the smarts. Hey, I got the jokes. They balance out. They balance each other out. When you look back at your career as a business owner, what are you most proud of?
Probably the team. Just having people that love doing this with me, having, Sabrina who works with me, she calls me boss lady, which I think I don't really love, but she loves it, so it's okay. And we call her girl in the van. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. We call her girl in the van. If you've ever watched, a Mission Impossible movie or like the Ocean's 8 movie, there's always somebody in the van who's like typing furiously and telling Tom Cruise how to look amazing doing whatever he's doing. In this scenario, I am Tom Cruise and she is the girl in the van. But, she said to me the other day, she said, this is the best job I've ever had. And that just made me feel so good that she loves what she does like I do.
Man, that's so cool. It's cool to see people kind of grow into their roles too. They come in as one thing and they keep getting better and better. Girl in the van is an awesome analogy, by the way. I can totally picture it.
Yeah. She's perfect for that. In fact, I think I maybe need to get her like some merch with that.
I'm telling you, merch is the next step. It keeps coming back.
It's coming, Joe. I'm working on it. I'm working with Mel Chavez. I bet you know Mel. She's working on. Yeah. We're working on some ideas.
She is awesome. I really like her. Good people. Talking about funny. She is a funny person as well.
Yes, and good people also.
Yeah, good combo right there. And great at her job. So there you got all three. So that's all you need.
Exactly. And another small business owner making Huntsville a better place.
That's it. So, we're talking about the Scout Guide. Where do we find this thing?
Well, you can go online. So you can go to our website. It's TSG Huntsville. Or you can look us up on Facebook or on Instagram. We're TSG Huntsville as well. And then if you want to get a paper guide, you can pick one up around town. There are lots of stores and businesses in town. It's bright yellow. This is very inconvenient that I don't have one sitting right here. But look for it around town. You can also, if you go on our website, TSG Huntsville, there's a directory. And if you click on the directory, it'll list all the businesses in the current guide. And those businesses should have guides that you can pick them up.
Awesome. It is an awesome magazine. It's so well done. Your photographer does an amazing job every time.
She does. All thank you.
It's glossy, everybody. Don't you want glossy out there? Glossy. It's so well done. I know you've kind of perfected it over the years. So, Dawn, it's so cool to sit down with you and learn more about your story as an entrepreneur.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it. This has been fun for me. I've kind of been wanting to hang out with you. So this is a great excuse to do it in 2D.
That's good. We got to get in 3D. That's the next step.
Let's do it.
Yeah. When we get that merch, we'll meet up. We'll do a merch swap. That's what we'll do.
Okay, good.
I appreciate you being on here, Dawn. I appreciate you guys listening and watching this as well. Please share this episode with somebody. Someone that needs to hear about, hey, I started this thing. I knew Huntsville needed it, and I grew it from there. What's that idea that you have? Share with somebody. Maybe they have that idea and they need to hear some inspiration from Dawn. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you guys next week on the Huntsville Hustle podcast.